Hi, everyone. Welcome to Good Investing. I'm your host, Tim Nash. Healthcare tends to happen in one of two ways, either a public system or the private sector. But what if there was a third way? Just like family provides at-home care to seniors that operates with a social enterprise model. This means they put people, both customers and employees, ahead of profits, letting our elders age gracefully at home with the care they deserve. It operates as a franchise, meaning that the impact is scalable and its at-home care is available in more than 70 communities across Canada. Today, we're talking with Ryan O'Neill-Knight, Executive Director of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network, a nonprofit that is buying a Just Like Family franchise in Toronto. He's currently running a crowdlending campaign through Goparity and raising $90,000 to acquire the franchise. The good folks at Goparity have gifted each of us a $50 voucher, so make sure to check the show notes for the link and code. Let's jump in. Ryan, I'm so happy for you to join me. Really, really excited. For those who haven't met Ryan before, Ryan O'Neill-Knight is the Executive Director of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network and is here as part of, I'm calling it the Impact Investment of the Month, because you've got a really cool project that we're going to dive into. But before we talk about like the specific like investment opportunity and what you're doing when it comes to impact investments, I've been following your career for a while. You've got such a talent for impact and for entrepreneurialism. How did you initially find that spark? What was sort of the first step that put you on this road for impact entrepreneurialism?
Yeah, and I'll definitely say it didn't start right away, like out the gate. I remember back in 2009 getting laid off from my job that I thought I was growing with just 2 weeks before my wedding, and taking that as, a gut check that you reevaluate things. And my dad always said, hey, if you want to control your own destiny, start a business. Or if you want to be rich, start a business. So thanks to my wife, and shout out to her, being the rock allowed me to go back to school and start detailing nights at the same time. But then as we were growing, we realized that we could actually run the business in a way that teaches others how to start businesses. And I'm a product of College Pro Painters. So knowing that a person could teach me how to do a painting business and paint houses, when we did the car cleaning, like, oh, the barrier to entry is so much lower, we can use this as the same model. So it was shifting to that type of growth where we were
Mhm.
working with young entrepreneurs. And I chose that path because I wish somebody had come to my school or just introduced entrepreneurship as another option if academically, things weren't going so well. So that's really what sparked it. And then from there, just been a big ambassador for social enterprise as we've been growing.
Yeah, because you wear several hats. So I saw you on Dragon's Den. What was that, like 2 weeks
two
ago?
weeks
I
ago,
think you
yeah,
appeared on
yeah.
Dragon's Den, and it was so cool. We should be able to find the clip. I'd love to be able to post that link in the chat as well. But that it was so cool watching you there because you have your own company, Detailing Nights, where it's
Yes.
about car detailing. And the pitch that you had for the Dragons there was really about launching that as a franchise to be able to have just like College Pro Painters, where young people can start their own business and sort of a low barrier to entry, but to have kind of a ready to go, a turnkey solution for you. But I don't want to stay too long on that because instead what I want to do is because you've got another hat where you're the executive director of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network. I think you've been there for like 6 years. Do I have that
This will
right?
be our 7th year anniversary in November. So
Oh my
yes.
goodness. Oh my goodness. Coming up on 7 years. And so I'd love just to get a feel for sort of that journey that in terms of the progress that you've made at ACBN. And, I did hear that you've got a bit of a funding challenge that you're facing right now.
Yeah, and we really started because what I was doing with Detailing Nights and ready to franchise and expand, there weren't a lot of Black focused business organizations that I could go to that had the
Mm,
mandate to scale up companies. So we brought
mm.
6 other entrepreneurs together, said, could we create this entity that would sit down with an entrepreneur, figure out what stage they're in, and then help them grow their companies exponentially? And thus ACBN was born. And initially, it was more, I would say, like info sessions, networking events. But then we started realizing the opportunities that we were presenting to the people in the room, they weren't quite ready to take advantage of it. So we shifted gears to capacity building. So we were able to launch our own microloan program in partnership with
Wow.
Alternative Savings. So we're
Wow.
definitely big ambassadors of credit unions, and we bank with Meridian, and I got my mortgage through Duca. So I'm like, yeah, ringing the bell on credit unions too. So when we shifted to capacity building, that's when we realized that we need to support people with not just getting funding, but also with marketing and sales. Because I find sales cures a lot of issues that entrepreneurs typically have. So internally, we wanted to make sure we had those supports. And now being able to, I would say, walk the talk with acquiring a social enterprise, because relying on government funding, I will say on the record, I am done with being dependent on it. I'm not done applying for grants. I'll definitely, anything that's out there that we qualify for, but there was a pit in our stomach, and my stomach, I would say,
Mm.
when so we had provincial funding that had been for about a year that was supposed to be our core funding, so operational. And we ended up getting told that, well, it's not going to get renewed. So, I mean, we don't have to shut the doors. We have other funding, but
Yeah.
realizing that we have to replace something like that, that really sparked the quest for an alternative. And so looking at like acquiring a franchise, because I'm a big fan of franchising, I'm doing that with my company. It's now being able to plug into something more established to help the organization be sustainable.
That's so cool. I love it. I think, I've been a part of a few different nonprofits, sat on the board as treasurer, seen
Right.
funding, applications, and it's so hit or miss. They make you jump through so many hoops. The
Yes.
turnaround time can be, 6 months, 9 months before you even
Yes.
find out whether you get the money or not. And then the power dynamic is that they can just like cut it off, like,
Switch it off.
right? So I love the idea of diversifying your revenue sources. So okay, so tell us the plan. So you've got this idea for the nonprofit, the
Right.
Afro-Caribbean Business Network, is a nonprofit that is buying a social enterprise franchise. Do I have that right?
Exactly. Yes.
So what's the franchise that you're buying?
So it is called Just Like Family Home Care. So they provide in-home services for seniors. Think of PSW work. So we go and offer like companionship, light housekeeping, meal prep. And the reason that we chose this franchise in particular, one, because it was more established. We got to meet the franchisor, Carla Langhorst, who wrote a book that talked about called Win-Win Capitalism, that talked about, yes, yes,
I've got it right here. This is the book that I've
like
been reading.
the church that she's a part of buying the franchise rights to Just Like Family. So I believe it was one of the first or the first social acquisition in Canada. So that now a church owning the business, the heart part of capitalism is going to be intact. And then Carla, because she's just a great business developer, the profit side of the business is also intact. So it's an industry that is growing. It was actually a space that ACBN we weren't really engaged in. So we're doing a lot of work with entrepreneurs, and now we're doing surveys of our network and realizing a lot of people are taking care of their parents. So people are under stress, and ACBN didn't really have a solution. So now being able to select a franchise that, one, will allow us to create revenue, create profits to help with operations, but also it helps us have conversations with our network to say who is going through this and what can we do to educate and support more
Mm.
seniors living longer in their houses. So it really became a win-win-win situation when the opportunity came about.
I love it. Like the more I've been learning about this model, like I just think it's so cool. My understanding is that it's the United Church, which like I love the United Church, very
Yes.
cool, very progressive in a lot of way. And I think it was out in Victoria that they purchased that
Right.
first sort of like territory because franchises, it's kind of like they're sort of done by communities. And so it's offering at-home care for senior citizens, which is so important right now,
Yes.
but it's also really critical. Like you're based, my understanding is that you're based in Toronto, that you'll be operating this in Toronto.
Right.
I'm seeing a lot with our, our provincial government, like Doug Ford, seems to be privatizing healthcare, right? Like it really is moving in that direction where there's a lot of for-profit healthcare taking over, especially in the, in the seniors area with a lot of these retirement communities, for-profit retirement communities that, are not providing great service. So to me, like really, am I right in thinking that this is an incredible sort of not-for-profit social enterprise solution to this, for-profit healthcare takeover?
Well, and that's where having the heart stay intact with business is really important, because when you start to privatize, the tendency is to skew towards profit at all costs. And we're
Yeah.
seeing what's happening with banks that chose that route. And we see just with general capitalism what happens when you're totally on that far end of the spectrum. And I always love that social enterprise is that sweet spot in between nonprofit and for profit full capitalism, is where you still are profitable, you're still trying to make money, but you also have a positive impact on the community, a positive impact on the environment. And it becomes a balancing act, because yes, the opportunities that might be out there that could just increase your revenues exponentially might not align with your heart and your values. So you have to make difficult decisions. But at the end of the day, I truly know that I could sleep better with how we're running detailing nights and seeing how Just Like Family is run. I know ACBN will be in really good hands having that as a territory. And sorry, I forgot to mention, we're going to be running the Midtown East Toronto territory. So
Oh, sweet.
yeah, core to the city.
Amazing. And like my understanding is that this really is sort of, for the community, with the community, by the community, that this really is, there's such concerns when it comes to at-home care, right? These are people that
Yes,
you're inviting into your home. Like it really is a very intimate service that you're providing. So I just
absolutely.
think it's so cool to keep that, within the community.
Yeah, and with the clients that we currently serve, it's really being able to match cultures. Because a lot of times, and I know my dad will tell me, like, listen, don't put me in any long-term care home. Like, I'm not having it. But then if we're going to bring in somebody to support him at home later on, I mean, he's fine now, but the conversation has to be had as early as possible. He's gonna want somebody to help him still make his Jamaican dishes. He's not gonna want somebody coming in and trying to boil hot dogs for him and telling him that that's dinner. So we want to be mindful of who we're serving, and then being able to match cultures so that they feel as comfortable and not be prisoners in their own home. So really want
I
to
love it.
take that. It's really important.
I love it. And letting people age at home. Oh my goodness, there's so much dignity associated with that.
Yeah.
And it really is the preferred option for people who can afford it. And so to have a social enterprise option is just so cool. Let's go through the offering together if we can. So I've got up here, I'm at the Goparity website. So folks should be able to see this. Some people, part of the community might have seen Goparity before. We did do a webinar, I believe at the start of the year, profiling one of their campaigns. So people might have seen this before, but really what we can look at, this is what's called a crowd lending platform. I'll just show you the past projects that they funded. So it's really cool. There's the Brave Overdose Detection, life-saving overdose detection for communities at risk in Vancouver. Sober Island Oysters. So this was a family-run oyster farm in Nova Scotia. And then the one that I helped, that I profiled last time, was on the West Coast, renewable energy communities, working capital to fuel Indigenous-owned clean energy solutions. So really cool. These are the types of projects that Goparity will fund. That the open project right now is your Just Like Family campaign. So,
Yes.
to me, this is so cool. It looks to me like you're raising $90,000. That we've already raised about $17,000 so far, which is amazing.
Yes.
There is
Yes.
a time limit on it. It's Future Tim here, letting you know that the window for this investment got extended, and it's now open until December 5th. Enjoy the show. So if people do want to invest, they do need to do it before that deadline. It looks like basically the way it works is that folks are investing for a 4-year term and earning 6.05% interest per year. Do I have that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Amazing. And so, for folks who want to read it, like this is a great website. We'll make sure we get this in the chat. But really, this is about allowing ACBN to acquire a Just Like Family franchise to provide localized, community-driven home care services for the aging population in Ontario. I assume this money like this is going to let you sort of complete the purchase of the franchise and then also kind of get things off the ground for with working capital, just to be able to get the business up and going. Do I have that right?
Yes, exactly. So I would say 65,000 would complete the purchase. Initially,
Yeah.
we were acquiring it, so it is in operation, and we were now going to get that 90,000 to have a bit of working capital to really inject marketing. But the great thing is because we've been able to take over operations with our ACBN team, and there's a community health manager already in place and caregivers in place, we've already been able to increase revenues from, I think we took it over, it's doing just under 20,000, and last month we eclipsed over 30,000. So for us, it's a real walk the talk moment because we're always supporting other businesses and saying like, hey, this is what you need to do. Now we can say like we are a blueprint to how to build up a business. So we can actually look in the mirror and say, yeah, you're doing what you say that you're telling other people to do. So
I love it. The proof is in the pudding.
yes.
Get those revenues, walk the talk. I love it. I love that alignment. Amazing. So we do have an amazing. I reached out to the folks at Goparity, and we have an awesome offer for people who are a part of this webinar. So basically, what we did is they've given everyone gets a $50 voucher
Yes, yes.
so that you don't even have to, if you don't have any money to invest, that's okay. We're not all in a privileged position where we can put more money towards this. But we do have a link. So if you've never signed up for a Goparity account, that we've got a link that Yamini, here it is, perfect. This voucher, that link, if you've never used Goparity before, then you get $50 for signing up, and it can go straight towards supporting the Just Like Family initiative. For those of us who already have the Goparity account, which I'm in that boat, so I'm going to log in. Let's see if I can do this in real time. I'm going to sign into my account. And what I'm going to do here is I can see that I've already, I invested $100 in the project before, my own money, that $88.46 is still invested in that project. But I've got a wallet balance here of $15.68. And then if I scroll down here to a voucher, I have a voucher. I can redeem it here. I'm going to do ACBN and add the code. And with any luck, my code was successfully redeemed. So I'm going to invest now. And what I should be able to do is invest my full amount into Just Like Family. So let's see how I can do here. So it's 15, and then I had 15. So this is going to be what I can do here, 15.68. Oh, it wants it to be a multiple. So if I do $10,
Right. Yes.
let's see if I can do that. Oh, hold on. Oh no. Let me see if I can do this. There we go. $10. There we go. Now it's happy. We're going to do plus the $50. I think I do this. Vouchers automatically. I will confirm, right, that I can do this. I'm going to click continue. This is my posting supplement. I'll add my signature here, Timothy Nash. That looks good, right? I acknowledge that this is a risky investment and that I could lose all the money that I invest. I don't want people to invest more than they are comfortable investing, right? This is going to be all of the legal piece here. I'm going to add my initials. Oh, there's going to be a little bit more. That's fine. I'm not subject to any of these minimums. Fantastic. Initial, a form of note. Oh my, I agree. Here we go. I'm going to confirm. And there we go. I believe I've just invested $60 into your impact investment. I'll talk to my wife. I think we might be able to top it up even a little bit more than that.
All right.
But for now, I wanted people to see how easy it is. If you've already got that Goparity account, then you can use that voucher, use that code ACBN to be able to get the $50. Oh, disappeared on my screen here. Let me see here. I'll come back to just the two of us. We don't need the screen share anymore. For people who haven't signed up for Goparity, hey, this is a great opportunity to make your first impact investment. Let's support this incredible impact investment. I love what you're doing, Ryan. Like, I'm such a fan. I just think it's so cool. Really, really big supporter. And I just want to kind of ask you, what would a successful raise mean for ACBN, like to show that you can raise 90K from your community to be able to purchase this franchise. Like, what is that impact?
Multiple, I would say verticals, because one, it would allow us not to have to rely on traditional debt or loans from traditional banks. And we are in conversation with a few. So we would rather tell them no thanks. We were able to raise it through community instead of being locked into one of the big banks. But two, being a blueprint for one, collaboration. We've been working closely with an organization, SETC, which is the social economy through social inclusion. So shout out to Victor, being able to now, one, acquire the territory, but then two, be a blueprint to other nonprofits. As I mentioned, some of our funding might have got cut, but there's also other organizations that are still going through the process of renewing their funding, and we're kind of in limbo with that. So now this can be an alternative for them if we show them a path that we can crowdfund, a path that we can access a social enterprise that generates revenue, and then that path would equal to sustainability, and anything above that would be bonus. So grants become bonus instead of detrimental to people keeping their doors open and keeping their staff employed.
Yes, absolutely. And Carrie, if you've got a question, feel free to just throw it in the chat. Would love questions. If other people have questions for Ryan, absolutely love to be able to get that. And then I guess, really for me, I want you to dream big with me for a moment,
Yes, yes.
right? That, when I think of like the idea of successful franchising for social enterprise in Canada, like to me, franchise, I've been thinking so much about the notion that small business is what really drives our economy, right? That we have all these large companies. When I talk about the stock market and the publicly traded corporations, that's what gets all of the attention in the media and in the business news. But it's something like 95% of jobs are small businesses. And I think a huge
Exactly.
chunk of those are franchises. Right. So what would it mean? Like dream big with me if you sort of had your way and this model just absolutely takes off. Like give me a vision for what kind of impact this can have in Canada.
Well, again, it would be twofold. And as we're dreaming together, there's a path where I see ACBN as an entity owning multiple territories. So not just stopping with the one, but rinse and repeat. It's like we can see 10, maybe even 50 across Canada into the US. So ACBN being an acquirer of franchises, but then not only just like family, we want to have entrepreneurs in our network that we're able to support so that they can franchise their companies, and ACBN can actually acquire territories from an entrepreneur that we developed. So our approach, and a lot of this is also getting amplified with what's happening with me with Dragon's Den, because now being connected to Brian Scudamore, who is well, I don't actually want to spoil it, but he's the dragon that showed interest on the show. So now being able to see a high level operation of franchising, that is where I feel ACBN should be teaching people. Yes, we want to see entrepreneurs and everybody has their own ideas, but we want to model the most successful ideas and duplicate that. And a book that Brian actually wrote shows franchises, I believe, have 80 to 90% success rates, whereas on the flip side, small businesses have an 80 to 90% failure rate.
Oh my
So should we
goodness.
be starting things that are high priority or high possibility to fail, or should we be finding the best examples in certain industries and duplicating those and then encouraging people to run better run franchises? So it's a direction that I feel ACBN wants to lean into, so that when we're talking about worldwide domination, so being an example of buying a franchise and then showing other people how to franchise and then showing them how they can expand across the world, we're
Yeah.
ready for it.
That's wild. And I mean, I think of my history, sort of the last, 15 years or so as a social entrepreneur and, out of the Center for Social Innovation. And, how many people I met who didn't make it, how many social enterprises failed, got started and failed. And, my success is largely due to like a huge amount of privilege. Like I had, I could live with my mom and avoid paying rent in Toronto for those first few years when,
Right? Yes.
when I was still
Yes.
making revenues. And then as well, that also at the same time dealing in finance. I'm kind of lucky that these are sort of bigger ticket in terms of the value proposition that I'm able to offer folks, that I can save them money, which means I can, charge them a little bit more than other social enterprises can.
Right.
But that really, so many social enterprises have really, really struggled. And so being able to have a bit of a turnkey solution, especially for younger social entrepreneurs who might not have the same experience or business acumen, I think can be really, really, really valuable. We do have a couple questions in the chat, so let's get to those.
Sounds good.
Elizabeth is having trouble loading your address into Goparity. Unfortunately, Elizabeth, I can't help you with that one. I can put you in touch with some of the fine folks at Goparity. So if the trouble persists, but I would always just say, refresh your screen, give it another go, see if you can work. I believe they are only available to Canadian residents, though. So hopefully, you are in Canada. That might make the difference. Carrie did ask, what is the difference between crowdfunding and this venture, which is such a good question, because a
Right.
lot of people have participated in like a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo, this idea of a crowdfunding campaign. But with Goparity, we're talking about crowd lending. Can you
Mhm.
talk to the difference, explain the difference to people?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically with a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, you are pre-purchasing the product that the entrepreneur is selling. And with something like a GoFundMe, you're almost like donating. So they're raising a certain amount of money, you're giving a certain a portion of your dollars and not really getting anything back. So with crowd lending, we're now raising dollars from the crowd. So they're putting in a certain amount. Let's say it's $1,000, but then that amount is being invested as a loan. So they would be getting over 4 years repayment on their investment at the 6.05%. So it's not like a GoFundMe where you're really donating that $1,000 and not expecting it back.
Right.
You're investing it as a loan to get back a return on it.
That's right. And it's not like a prepayment, like you're not buying the services
Right,
from Just Like
exactly.
Family, that anyone can do this across Canada. And then as well, it's not like I've also seen equity-based crowdfunding where you're buying like a small little slice of the company. But again, that's not this. This is crowd lending, which means that it's debt. We are loaning money to ACBN to be able to do this. Care's also asking, if I invest $100 and then want to add more later, how do we do that? And how long into the project can we keep adding our investment? So my understanding is that this is a bit of a limited time offer, that there is a bit of a window. And then once it's sold out, the window closes and people aren't able to invest anymore. Now, it could be that, you decide you want to buy a new franchise, or you have another that ACBN absolutely could, do a new raise and kind of open that window back up. But my understanding is that this is a limited time crowd lending campaign. Do I have that right?
Right. From my understanding, correct. So once the campaign ends, where it's at, it ends. And then if we decide to, as this one is successful, go after another territory, we could possibly do another campaign. Right.
Love it. And so, and then I do see Emily Mercy in the chat that is that from Goparity, that if anyone has a challenge with a specific
Okay,
function,
good.
can email support. Support-ca@goparity.com. So, the folks at Goparity have just been so awesome. They've provided that amazing $50 voucher, which I really want to encourage everyone to take advantage of. And then at the same time, if people do have any problems, they're just lovely people there that can help you get sorted out. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me. It's been such a pleasure. Ryan O'Neill Knight is the executive director of the Afro-Caribbean Business Network. Ryan, I am in awe of the work that you're doing. Really want to encourage you and hope that we've given you a little boost tonight on this crowdfunding campaign.
And really appreciate it, Tim. Again, thank you for the opportunity. Glad to meet your network and looking forward to being a student in your class. So I'm going to be, I guess, a fly on the wall or an active participant in your
Yeah.
courses. So looking
You're a
forward to that
class
too.
member. You're in there. You can post on the bulletin board. You can
Yes.
come to the Ask Me Anythings.
Sweet,
Ryan,
sweet.
I'm so happy to have you in the classroom. Really appreciate it. Shireen says, great talk. Yamini says, what a cool project. Thank you. I think people are just love the work that you're doing with me. Really, really appreciate you, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Yo, my pleasure.